All right. Well, welcome to the show, Megan. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's first thing in the morning. This is like a perfect way to start my day. How are you?
I'm doing great. So it's around 10 a.m. for me. So I've already kind of had a morning of getting the kids up and one of those kids off to preschool and ear
Nice.
infections. And I was sick
Oh,
last night, but I'm here as we were just chatting about. I'm
yep.
here. I'm pushing through. Sun's shining in Atlanta. It's going to be actually a warm day here, so that's good.
Way to persevere.
Yes, thank you. Well, like I mentioned, we were just chatting, before we hit record. Sometimes when I interview people, it's kind of this sort of selfish part of it of like, I can't wait to learn. And so I've been looking forward to chatting with you. I've been following you for some time and what you're doing and your work, as a business consultant for introverted entrepreneurs, which is that's who I am. And so I am excited to learn from you. So I'll let you kind of take it away now and just kind of share more about what you do, but really
Mhm.
share your story about how you came to do what you're doing now.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. And yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always like such a rich gift to be able to connect with someone else who's introverted or lower energy in the business space specifically, because we
Yeah.
can be we can be hard to spot sometimes. So it
Yes.
can feel a little lonely if
Yep.
you don't have a really robust community of other people who identify in similar ways as you. So I'm really glad to be here, and I'm happy to share. I'll do my best to share a shortish version of my story, but I think that some of the different chapters that I've been through over the past 10 years are important, and I think a lot of people can connect with what I've been through at different points of my journey. So um, I went to grad school straight out of undergrad. I'm kind of a lifetime over functioning perfectionistic overachiever. And I went to grad school, finished grad school, worked in a group practice for a very short amount of time, launched my own private practice, and got married all around the same time. And I lived in Houston, Texas at the time. That's where I was born and raised. And my husband and I really kind of just set up our life in Houston. I built a really successful private practice, and a few years into that journey, my husband actually hit burnout. He was in corporate America, oil and gas engineering, and he just sort of arrived at this point where he couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
He was like, I just can't, the 9 to 5, and then we can get in later to like all of the ethics and moral conundrums of working in oil and gas. And he needed something to change quickly. And I had grown up in Texas my whole life. He's moved all over. So we were like, let's just move, let's just have a great adventure and move out west. And we did. It was like a pretty quick transition. We decided that he needed to quit his job, packed up all of our stuff and our 3 dogs, and we moved to Portland, Oregon. And when we got in Portland, I was actually really excited about the opportunity to build a private practice again, which is, I think, when I probably should have known I was destined to be a business coach, because most
Yeah.
people were like, I can't believe you're walking away from this business you built and you have to start all over. And I was like, I'm
Right.
kind of excited to start all over because I get to redo it from scratch, private practice 2.0.
That's
Um,
cool.
and it was great. I was full in about 2.5 months. My
Wow.
caseload was like bursting at the seams. A lot of work and prep went into that before the move. But I was thriving and my husband was not thriving. Jonathan was really struggling. The thought of going back to a 9 to 5 was like not doing it for him. So
Mm.
we knew that we wanted to take a stab at doing something together and really creating for our whole family the kind of abundance and freedom I had created for myself in private practice. I'm also, just a smidge ambitious as a person. So I knew that I wanted to try to do more with my career and build a bigger business. The only thing is, at the time, the only option that I knew was available to me was starting a group practice. And I didn't know about anything I'm doing now, basically personal branding, high ticket offers. I didn't know about that world. I thought my only option was group practice. So
Yeah.
we did it. We like jumped in to the group practice world. We actually still own and operate our group practice. It's thriving here in Portland, although I play more of a passive role in the group now. And we did that for a couple of years, and I started doing business coaching and getting into the business building world. And this is when it really became clear to me that I was different as a business owner who was more introverted, who was highly sensitive, who had a little less energy, because all of the business circles I was running in and the coaches I was working with were very much like, go, 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 grind it out, hustle. Yeah. And that approach sent me into my own really deep episode of burnout. And I was real close, Daniel, to just like burning the whole group practice to the ground and getting a job at Starbucks and just like calling it a day, because I was like, I guess I just, I felt like I must not be cut out for this. Right. If being successful looks like what all of these people are doing and how they're doing it, I can't. I just don't have that kind of energy. I don't have that kind of stamina. And all of those messages that I was getting really were like, this is the only way to create success. So I stepped away. I took a sabbatical of my own. And it was actually during that sabbatical that I realized that was all like a big bunch of bullshit. I was like, hold on a second. Like, this cannot be the only way. Like there cannot not be a path to professional success for people like me who have less energy. And I kind of like planted my flag in the sand, and I was like, okay, this is the hill I will die on. I'm like, I am going to figure out how to be what I now call how to be deeply rested and wildly successful, because I refuse to believe that the two of these things are mutually exclusive. So that was the beginning of me building Megginson coaching, building out my personal brand, and starting on this path of helping other therapists do the same.
That's awesome. There's so much in your story that's like you're preaching to the choir here, because it's just my own journey. Like I hit burnout too. I was working for 5 years at a nonprofit here in Atlanta, which was rewarding work, but it was still very corporate. And just I remember being, like your husband, just in that depressed state of like, this is not fulfilling. And then also too, and starting my business, the same sort of thing. Like, is there something wrong with me? Like, am I just not cut out to do this? And you mentioned, getting a job at Starbucks. I joke maybe, every 6 months or so to my wife, the garbage man goes by, and I'm like, I think someday I'd like to be a garbage man. You just put on your headphones, you know what you need to do. And you get to move your body, be outside. People don't hassle you so much. It's that not little much escape responsibility. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm super excited to learn a little bit more about that deeply rested and wildly successful. So kind of unpack that for us, and just share what wisdom you have, because I know that we have a lot of introverts who are listening. And like I said, like, this is near and dear to my heart. And for people listening too, I'm in a tough place for an introvert right now. We've got a 4-year-old and an 8-month-old at home. So there's a lot of noise going on. It's hard to find, and that I would not consider myself deeply rested. And the kids are actually sleeping good right now. And I would still say I'm not deeply rested. So yes, unpack this for us. And I'm super excited to learn here. Well, I will start by saying I don't have a magical solution for how to be deeply rested as the parent of a 4-year-old and an 8-month-old. Unfortunately, that's when I will really be rich, is when I figure out that secret sauce. But yeah, so deep rest, wild success. I think this really was the sort of epiphany that showed up for me when I was on sabbatical, is that what I needed was rest, and not just superficial rest. Like, I really needed deep rest, and rest can come in many shapes and sizes. It's not just sleeping, right? It's not just taking a nap, although those are things I really love. But deep rest, comes in and being creative and connecting with people that you love and reading a great book and taking a walk in the forest. Like, rest looks different for everyone. The deep rest, I feel like, happens on a more spiritual level. It's like soul based, right? When I feel like I am so well tended to that my energy reserves are never depleted, because I'm doing everything I need to feel just happy and peaceful. And I felt like the business world
was not conducive to that kind of rest. And
Right.
I guess if we like zoom out a little bit, Daniel, and talk about like capitalism for a moment and the patriarchy, you know, like we'll throw out some big ideas here, but like these are systems that I feel like as business owners, capitalism really wants you to believe that you're a machine and you need to like grind it out, and like that your value is connected to your productivity on the planet. And if you're not productive, you're not valuable. And the patriarchy piece, I feel like, is really specific for us as therapists, right? That there is this societal system that makes therapists believe that our job is to be givers to our clients and to our families. And that's what we're here for. We're here to give, you know, we're not here to receive. We're not here to build a life that really works for us. We're here to put our clients first. And I think it's these two pieces that as they became clear to me, I realized, no, like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to participate in a society that makes me believe that those are my lots in life.
Yeah.
And I think deep rest and wild success is really sort of the rebellion. It's the antithesis of what capitalism and patriarchy want to make me believe about myself. So I'm saying no, like what I'm going to do with my career is be wildly successful, which should mean something very different to everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Like wildly successful. That's totally up to you how successful you want to be and what that wants to look like. But I will not do that at the expense of my well-being. Like I will put deep rest first. And as I become deeply rested, I have the bandwidth and the resources to really be wildly successful in my professional career. And I insist that I will have both.
Yes. Amen to that. I mean, that's awesome. And I've been, you know, on my own personal journey, I've been kind of in that space myself where I'm understanding that, you know, there has been some growth in my business that has come at the expense of my rest. And so I'm not too big on New Year's resolutions, but I am big on, you know, setting themes for the year. And, you know, rest it's been the theme actually for the last half of this year, but I can see that going into the new year, kind of defining like what you said, like what is success? And even what does rest look like? You know, for me, like what are the activities in my life that I enjoy doing? Such as, you know, music is big for me, and I haven't played my guitar in a couple of months, and it's right behind me right now. It's right there. Just pick it up, man. But you know, just being true to myself and scheduling those times with myself is just as important as, you know, scheduling a time to meet with my team or to work on a project, because it's all connected. I think for a while I thought like business and family and your schedule was kind of like, and maybe coming from the 9-to-5 world, that's kind of what I picked up and learned. It's like you had your business over here, not business, but you know, your work over here, and then you shut that off and you come home to the family, you know. And now I'm working from home, and so it's a lot of in and out, and some of that stuff, which is hard for me because I like the focus and quiet time. But there still needs to be a way to kind of define, okay, what does success look like in this environment for me? And so, you know, that's kind of on my list of things to do as we kind of slow down for the rest of the year, is just define those things in my own life.
I think getting clear, I mean, when I'm working with business coaching clients, this is always where I begin, right? Like, let's really clarify what it is you actually want and why you want it. You know, before we dive into like your ideas or how much money you want to make or whatever the case may be, like, I don't actually care about any of that until you can tell me why you want this and what it is you're actually trying to create. Because you're right. If we don't know the answer to those questions, we kind of move through our businesses in a very aimless sort of way. And I feel like that is like your fast track ticket to burnout. If you don't know where you're headed, you get stuck in what I call the arbitrary more. Right. It's that sense like when people are just striving for more and more and more. Oh, I had a 5-figure month. Oh, now I want a 6-figure year. Oh, now I want a 7-figure. It's like, hold up. Why? You know, get off that train. Like, why do you want this? You need to really discover where it is you're trying to go.
Yeah. And I think too, that it's good to, I know for me, like I review that, you know, I have a great scheduling journal here that's like my work schedule stuff, but at the beginning of every week, I kind of write out, you know, what are those goals I'm going after? But every 90 days, I'm also setting those like the big picture, you know, like looking really down from above, like and that includes now, what does success look like for, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my kids, my business, of course, but all those other things, and kind of making sure that I'm not setting goals just for my business, but I need to set goals and review those goals constantly for my life in general, because otherwise that's my tendency. Like, I will go after the more and the more and the more, and just like be so focused on the business.
Yeah. I mean,
and
that's
then
capitalistic conditioning. I mean, it
I
like lives
know.
inside all of us.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for growing up too, my dad was a very he provided, wonderfully for us, but it was very, hourly based. And so it's like he'd be working overtime, sometimes on Saturdays when I was really young. And so from that comes that message of, you need to work more in order to make more, which I reject that. But then when my actions kind of show like, oh, you still kind of believe this. So like, be intentional and take a step back. So that's where I'm at.
There's some straight up wisdom in what you're saying right now. I think the bit about setting personal goals, that is very important to me too. Every 90 days when I kind of sit down to reassess things, I always start with the personal, and I do that very intentionally to like retrain my own brain. Because the tendency, like you said, the tendency is to default to your business, to default to work, for all of the reasons that we've already discussed. So I'm not perfect. But I'm really trying. I'm trying to retrain my brain to be like, the personal comes first. And part of what I do in those personal questions that I ask myself is to really think about rest. And I ask myself, and I just do it kind of journal style. I ask myself, like, how have you rested the past 90 days that you really enjoyed, that you want to keep doing for the next 90 days? And then, like, what's missing? What part of yourself is not being tended to, right? Because the business owner part of me gets a lot of bandwidth, right? Gets a lot of attention. So what part of me, I took piano lessons over the summer. I was like, I just want to play piano. And then I realized after 90 days, I'm like, this is taking too much thought. I'm like, I need something even easier than this. I'm like, let me just read some more books. And I guess that's the other thing I want to say about it is, I've realized that this process of fine tuning and listening to myself, it is in constant evolution.
Yeah.
So it is not, you're so right. It's not like January comes around and I say, I'm going to play the guitar for 20 minutes every day, and that's how I'm going to rest. Like, you don't know that 4 months from now, that's going to be what it is you need or who you are. So you have to be willing to meet yourself every day. And you have to prioritize it. That's the kicker. Like, I can talk about this concept until I'm blue in the face. But if I'm not like living it and choosing to prioritize these decisions and these commitments every single day, it's all for nothing.
Right. Yeah. That's such a good reminder for me, because I'm like listening, thinking through this conversation. I'm like, I need to prioritize this a lot more. And I have the tools to do so. But I've also been giving myself a lot of grace having an 8-month-old at home. It's just been kind of like, I'm happy if I could just wake up in the morning and just read for 10 minutes, maybe do a little bit of like meditation, and just kind of like sit in quiet before everyone else wakes up. And so that's been kind of my success, my level of my measure of success right now. But I'm kind of looking at, okay, like in 2022, like, what's maybe one or two things that I can add, and how do I prioritize that bit of rest and some of those things outside of work.
I mean, that's such a compassionate reminder that this conversation is going to be different depending on what season of life you're in.
Yeah.
Right. You have an 8-month-old at home. I do not. Like, the bandwidth and the space and time that we have to focus on our personal intentions is going to be drastically different.
Yeah.
So, and neither of us are perfect. I guess I want to say that too. Yes, I talk about these things and they're very important to me, and I am like not perfect, and I mess up every single day, and I'm constantly trying to figure out, how can I do this better? So it's not about perfection. I feel like it's just about being in the conversation, meeting yourself with compassion, and doing your best to retrain your own brain around what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more, and I hope this doesn't take us too sideways, but I'm curious about that self-compassion piece, like from a selfish standpoint. That is definitely something I struggle with. I can find myself getting into that, the capitalist mindset, and then like, oh, you should have been able to do this. Oh, you should be able to do more, and so I have to, really I'm not perfect, and I keep coming back to like constantly like, oh, have some grace, like it's okay, like you're doing great, just keep
Yeah.
moving forward. But
Mm.
what's been your your journey with that?
Well, very similar to what you're describing. I think I've discovered in the last year or two, I've discovered that this self-compassion piece is twofold for me. On the one hand, there is just the basic self-compassion. I took a self-compassion training back in like 2013, 2014, and it like changed my life. It was just, we all have like a couple of moments in our life when like something massive clicked in our brains and then
Yeah.
everything shifted. Kristen Neff, mindful self-compassion, like that was a massive shift moment for me. And I do think like day to day, moment to moment, having the mindful awareness to notice when I'm in self-criticism, when
Yeah.
I'm in compare and despair, when I'm in judgment about how I'm not moving as fast as my colleagues or not achieving all of those goals that I wrote out on my 90-day planner, like being able to catch myself in that moment and put everything down and shut the computer and just come in and be like, okay, hey, hang up, like just hang it up, like whoop, just put it right over there. It's okay. You're doing great. And I think we have to be able to do that as business owners. It's self-regulating, it's self-soothing. The other piece that I want to weave into this, though, that I've been thinking about a lot this past year is sort of the echo chamber of the online business space, the therapy business space. And I think that, so what do I mean by that? When you're a business owner who operates mostly independently, you're in your office with your clients, you're not in a big company, you're not in a big office building where people are coming and going, you're on your computer, you're like with your clients, or you're in a Facebook group for therapists, or you're in a mastermind with people who are doing the same thing that you're doing. And your whole world becomes really like homogenous, and you're hearing the same stories all the time, and you're hearing the same messages, and you can really lose perspective about what's happening in like the broader world. And I think when you're in that echo chamber as a business owner, it amplifies all of the shoulds. I should be doing this, I should be achieving this. And then I feel like the volume gets cranked up on our self-critical voice, because we're in this echo chamber of, our little world as therapy business owners. And I think meet yourself with self-compassion, read Kristen Neff's book, watch her TED Talk if you haven't already, but also get out of the bubble. Like get out of the Facebook groups, surround yourself with people who are in different types of businesses, spend more time with your friends who don't run their own businesses at all, because that sometimes for me is like the greatest gift I can give myself when it comes to lowering the bar on what I think I'm supposed to be achieving.
Yeah, that's so good. That comparison thing, that's a killer with the social media world that we live in and stuff. And I know for the last year, I've been like slowly just like backing away from Facebook, and I hardly go on Facebook at all. I have a Facebook group, and people might be listening and wondering, hey, where's Daniel been? And it's just been so crazy. But I think I might archive that group, just because kind of back to how we started the conversation, is just like, well, do I need to do all this stuff in order to be successful? And I think that there might be a season where, yes, like I'd love to focus in on building an online community where I can really serve people. But right now, I'm really focused on our current clients and the projects that we have, and getting them success with their websites and SEO. And that's okay. Like, I don't need to build a thriving Facebook group right now. That's not.
Well, I also question, I'm curious what your thoughts on this. I question if Facebook groups are the right space for introverts to be in.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's so much people
much
time.
Yeah,
it's like so much noise, or at least moderating or leading the Facebook group. Maybe it's easier if you're a fly on the wall in a Facebook group, but leading a community online, it's like you have to be available to so many humans. I've thought a lot about this for myself. And I'm like, that's too much people for me. Like I need less people in my life. And social media is just this like barrage of people. And I decided to go off of social media for my businesses, partly because creating content for social media does not bring me joy. But I think the bigger reason I decided to go off of social media professionally was that all of my professional accounts were saturated with other professional accounts. So when I would get on Instagram or get on Facebook, all I would see were ads for courses I should take, or post about things that I don't know, or post about so-and-so who did this and they did it, 3 times as faster than I did.
Right.
And that was not good for me.
Mm-hmm.
That did that made it very hard for me to prioritize my rest.
Amen. Amen.
So
I'm in that
get the hell out of there if you're struggling.
I'm in that space too. I'm down to just Instagram, but even Instagram, the same sort of thing. You're just reminded oh, wow, they launched that thing. Oh, wow, they're doing this now. Oh, wow, they're actually publishing content on Instagram multiple times a week. How did they do that?
Right. Yeah. And then you get anxious.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my mentors said to me once, this is such great advice. She said, Megan, keep your eyes on your own paper.
Yeah.
And she was like, pretend like you're back in 7th grade and you're at your desk and you're, taking your history exam and you're writing your answers. You're like, you can't, it's against the rules to look over and look at what someone else is doing and copy their answers. Just keep your eyes on your own paper. And I realized I could not keep my eyes on my own paper if I was on social media. Just couldn't, did not have the self-control.
Yeah, it's hard. I think I might run an experiment for myself maybe in the new year, get off of social media completely for a month, evaluate, see how it feels, and then maybe just add back in if I feel like I need to, add in what's important or what I feel like, will
Have you
work.
read Digital Minimalism?
No, I haven't.
Recommend.
But that title sounds amazing. I'm writing that down right now.
Yeah. I'm reading it right now. And cool. I'm like, okay, some good ideas here. Because I think we all need to take a step back, especially maybe not all of us, that's not fair, but those of us who are introverted, highly sensitive, low energy, low bandwidth in general, we really need to examine the role social media is playing in our professional lives. I think for most of us, it becomes quickly apparent that it is just holding us back from the ultimate contribution we want to make in our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we could go on forever, but I think that's probably a good place to wrap this up. This has been just a great conversation. As you said, it's always good to meet another fellow introvert and just kind of talk through this stuff. Because I think it's we can connect on that level and with those struggles and successes and, things that work and don't work. So I appreciate your time, Megan. Is there anything else you want to leave us with as we wrap this up?
No, just that I just want everyone listening to see you and me and to see us as examples of people who have created great success in our lives as therapists. We've created non-therapy based businesses that are doing well, that are supporting our families. And, if we can do it, you can do it, because there's nothing special about you or me. We are not more special than anyone listening to this conversation. And I just want everyone listening to know, no matter how low energy you are, you can be deeply rested and wildly successful. And super grateful, Daniel, to have had the chance to chat with you today.
Yeah, it was great to chat. It was great to meet you. And where could people find you online?
They can find me at Megginson.com.
Okay, awesome. We'll put that in the show notes. Well, thank you so much, Megan. I appreciate it.
Talk to you later.